Hi, I'm Yegi. I'm an entrepreneur and success coach who wants it all. Family, luxury, career, and the freedom to do whatever I want, whenever I want. And I'll do whatever it takes to get there. I created the Yegi project to document my journey and inspire others to do the same. My mission is to change the world by influencing and leading others to do what they love and live fulfilled lives. Hello. Welcome back to the Yegi project. Well, I hope everybody's been doing great. And it is shocking enough for me to say that we are almost halfway through the year. Where did 2023 go, right? But for that reason, today's episode is going to be dedicated to kind of checking in, seeing how we're doing mentally, emotionally, physically, career-wise, all that good stuff, to do a self-assessment on our life. So I thought that'd be really cool to do for myself, and honestly, to share that with you guys, and hopefully you can sit down and do the same for yourself. I think it's important to kind of pause, take a break, and really check in to see how we're doing. But it's really useful and helpful to have a guidance or guideline of what we're checking in with, right? Because sometimes it could be easy to say, oh, I'm checking in with myself. Oh, I'm mad, or I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, or, just a quick one-word answer. But when we actually fully check in and do a self-assessment, it's a whole other thing. We really get a full picture of how we're really doing, what's really important to us, and where we're going towards, right? It forces us to think about the things that are important to us, which a lot of times, sadly, a lot of people don't even know what's important to them. We just go on with our day-to-day life and hope we feel good and happy and content. But we've never taken the time to really think about what that is. So that's why I'm going to dedicate this episode for half a year mark, season change, check in, and really try to uplift all of us. Well, I hope you guys enjoy. So let's dive in. What are the main categories, or what are the main areas in our lives that we need to look at, right? To break it down, it's actually our health, our relationships, our personal development, our career development, and also our possessions. These are the 5 main categories that people kind of look at to know where they're at, to see how they feel, and to see where they want to go, right? If you've never thought about these areas of your life specifically, like literally sat down and thought about it, or even write about it, you may be missing some easy things that you could be doing in order to feel more fulfilled and content and happy with your life. So let's break it down and see how we can assess and better our lives in all these 5 areas. So the first thing is health, okay? And I'm going to break down health in 2 main categories, because our mental health and our physical health are 2 totally different things. And they both need to be functioning and working really well for us in order for us to feel good. And I'm going to open up with the health because honestly, if we're not in the right headspace, so if our mental health or our physical health is not good, or at least good enough, we're really not going to be able to do anything else. I mean, how many times has it been is when you're sick, you're like, oh, I just want to feel better, right? You don't care about anything else. You don't care about going out. You don't care about doing anything. You don't care about accomplishing goals. You really don't care about anything else besides feeling good. We just want to feel okay, right? But it's the same thing with our mental health and our physical health on the ongoing. It shouldn't be when we have a cold or when we have a flu and we're really down, right? We should really sit down and figure out how can we make our health ideal to where we want it to be. So for our physical health, if it's something you want to work on your weight, if you want to work on your endurance, like your muscle mass, right? Or how good you feel just overall being flexible, if you have aches and pains, right? If we have even like chronic back pain, that could be something that's really getting in our way of being at our full potential. But whatever is important to you, you need to be realistic, and that's what you need to assess and write down for yourself in the physical health area. Don't worry about what the ideal is, what most people want to look like or feel like when it comes to their physical health. It is what's really important to you that you want to set clear guidance and goals for you to accomplish, because that's what's going to make you feel better. Again, I can't stress that enough. Don't worry about what most people want to accomplish in this physical health area. It's what's important to you that's going to make you feel good and make you feel happy. And then the same thing with the mental health. We really want to see what we can do to feel really mentally strong, right? And I felt really mentally strong in my life at points. So I know what that feels like. Like, nothing can put me down. Nothing can put my happiness, my energy, my good flow down when I'm in this optimal, like, mental health headspace, right? But I've also felt times in my life where I'm in kind of like a more negative or lower mental health space where if something wrong or something bad happens, I can't handle it as good. I break down, or I'm more sad, or it takes me longer to get over. I take other people's like opinions more to my heart if I'm not fully mentally feeling good. So again, write down for yourself, what does like feeling mentally good means to you. Is it to feel really confident? Is it really to feel at peace? Is it really to not care what people think, right? What part of your mental health or your what part of your emotions, mental health is important to you for you to really assess and see how you can improve it and work on for the rest of the year. And honestly, I'm a huge believer of therapy and getting any help, even if it's yoga, exercise, meditation, all of that actually does help our mental health. So if you are struggling to figure out ways of how you can work on your mental health, please talk to a professional, get some help. It's not embarrassing. It's not bad. Doesn't mean you're crazy. Doesn't mean something's wrong with you. Getting help really can change your life. Sometimes we just need to hear certain things from different people for us to really believe it. So yes, if you need it, please get the help. I'm a huge believer of that. I think we all can use a therapist, honestly, I think ongoing. In fact, maybe I need to go talk to a therapist again. I've done it in the past, but with a lot of things in my life currently changing, I'm honestly kind of at a lower space than I normally am with my mental health, and I'm also pregnant. So there's the news. So that's also another big life change for me. So I'm struggling a little bit with handling everything, and I'm going to take my own advice and talk to somebody. So don't keep all your problems to yourself. Honestly, don't think that you have to be able to handle everything on your own. Don't think that you have to think through and figure everything on your own. I'm a huge believer in getting help. If it's a therapist, if it's a coach, a life coach, if it's a business coach, I think everybody can use help. And sometimes we're kind of scared to get it, or we don't think that's an option, or we think, oh, I'm strong enough, I should be able to handle it, nothing's wrong with me. But I think that's the best investment we can do in ourselves, by talking to other people and getting advice and getting help. So yes, do that. And I'm going to take my own advice, I promise, and I'll let you guys know how it goes. So for myself too, to work on my mental health, one thing I always do is anytime I'm feeling overwhelmed, if I just want to try to figure it out on my own. So these are the things I usually do. So I literally will sit down and journal, right? We've heard this enough, and some people know to do this, but they just don't. But I really encourage you to try it. Like literally, if you feel overwhelmed, you feel angry, you feel sad, any negative emotion, literally sit down, grab a pen and paper, turn everything off so there's no distractions, and just start writing. It doesn't have to be perfect. You're not writing a novel or an essay. You just have to get all of that from your head onto paper. And you can just jump all over the place, because a lot of times when we're overwhelmed or really stressed out or really upset, our thoughts don't even make sense, honestly. We're just jumping, bouncing all over the place, having crazy exaggerations, or like really not knowing how to even declutter our minds. But once you start writing and even if it doesn't make any sense, you're going to kind of feel better. You're going to vent and you're going to be able to kind of figure out, okay, these are the things that after I wrote them down, I kind of can let go. I'm over it. I talked it out with my journal. And then these are the things that are still bothering me that I need to work on. And half the time, if we write it down or say it out loud, certain things, it already solves itself. We really find the solutions within it, or when we hear it or when we write it, we decide, oh, it's not that big of a deal as it was in my head. Because again, there's just so much our minds can handle. So really try that. So that's one thing I try all the time, especially when I really am like, I don't know what to do. So that's one thing. The next thing is always like I go in nature, do your walks, exercise. That helps me a lot. And now I just started trying to get into meditation. So I've been still playing around with that to get better at it. I still like the guided meditations, even just hearing like those words that are very calming with the soothing noise, sound. And you can get guided meditation even just by Googling it or going on YouTube. You can just listen to it and it really like puts me in a better headspace. But it's not for everybody. These are some few things you could do for your mental health for yourself if you're struggling at the moment. So another thing I like to do is I like to have a list of tools that make me feel better, okay? So even the most positive person, the most successful person, the most thriving person has low moments. We're all human, and literally anybody I've talked to, even really, really successful people, they have these low moments where they're mentally not feeling great. So it's important to literally have a toolkit for yourself, and you can only create this for yourself in order for you to have something to refer to when you're feeling down. You want to create a toolkit when you're feeling good. You don't want to create it when you're feeling like you're in a shitty mood, right? You just want to create it when you're kind of feeling good and you're feeling pretty like happy go jolly. So then you can refer to it when you are down. So the toolkit is going to be literally a list of things that you can do that's going to cheer you up. So, and it's going to be different for everybody. So for one person, it may be watch a Disney movie, right? Maybe that puts you in a good mood. For another person, maybe hanging out for a specific friend. So try to plan that out when you're not in a good mood. For another person, it may be going on a hike, taking a bath, going to the spa, shopping, right? Within limits, don't go crazy, but shopping therapy is a thing too. So write down all the little things that you can do to help you snap out of your bad, your low times or your bad mood times. And that's what I've created, and I refer to it all the time. And anytime, and the things on that list, you should have at least 5 to 10 items on the list, because when you're feeling down, sometimes you're like, I don't feel like doing that. I don't feel like doing that. You want to have enough options to be able to have at least one thing that you can kind of force yourself to do to snap out of it and feel better quicker. And the last thing is you want to really think about and reflect back on a time where you were really happy or where you were feeling good, right? We hopefully all had moments in our lives where we're like, oh, I was like really happy around that time, or I was really feeling good about myself at that time. What was I doing? What was going on, right? So you want to sit down and really think about it. So even let's say if it was in high school or wherever you were at your life, right? You want to sit down and think about, okay, what was I doing different at that time that I was feeling so good compared to right now? More likely you were doing things back then that was making you feel good that you're currently not doing. So if it is hanging out with your friends, or if it is exercising or being part of a sports team, then that's something you should consider adding back to your life to get you back into that happy space that you were in. And the last tool, and hopefully you guys all have a list, your gratitude list. This is the last tool I like to have. Again, I like to advise people to make this list when they're, again, feeling good, not really feeling down. Just so you can be more positive and hopefully write more things down on your gratitude list, but you could do it anytime. So force yourself to sit down one day and literally write down everything that you're grateful for. If it's your health, if it's your hands that you can eat, your feet that you can walk, anything that you can think about being grateful for, you want to write down on this list, okay? Sometimes when we start listing it or even saying out loud all the little things that we have in our lives to be grateful for, that helps us snap out of the bad mood or the low points in our lives where we're like, oh, everything sucks, my life sucks. But if we do have a list that we can refer to, by the end of reading it, it almost makes you feel like, oh, okay, no, I have a lot of things I could be grateful for. Let me focus on being grateful for this. And honestly, if you believe in spirituality or the law of attraction, like it's a thing where people say and believe if you are more grateful, you can really like feel grateful from your inside, you're going to attract more great things in your life. So it's a good practice to try to do this even daily, in the mornings, in the evenings. Even if you don't feel like it, give it a shot. See if you were to do it, by the end of it, is it going to put you in a better space, better mood? Certain things like this sometimes takes practice. The first couple times you do it, you may feel silly. You may think, oh, this doesn't work, or I'm wasting my time. I just want to be sad and depressed. But if you do it enough, sometimes you'll come to a point where you have a light bulb moment and be like, oh, this actually worked. But you need to be open and accepting of trying new things in order to, be in a different space and to be better. Another thing we can talk about are health and our happiness. And this goes both physical and mental health, is we want to have things on our calendar to look forward to, right? It's been proven, and we have a whole episode about how to increase happiness. It's been proven that if you have things to look forward to, you are just happier going on with your day. Not only doing the physical activity that you have planned causes happiness, but even just the anticipation of looking forward to something that's in your calendar a month from now really increases happiness. All right, so after health, I think the next important thing is relationships. So we want to make sure we have really good, healthy relationships in our lives. So if it's with colleagues, if it's with family and friends, and I've talked about this a lot in the past, but it really works with our self-assessment. So we want to sit down and really figure out what's working in my relationships and what's not. Not only who is in my life and who maybe we need to let go of, but also the people that are in my life that I have good relationships with, where do they stand? Or even if I have bad relationships with, the direct people that are in my day-to-day life, how can I assess my relationship with them? If it's your significant other, if it's your kids, if it's your colleagues, whoever it is, I would really the first question is, okay, is this person really serving me? Like, it should be obvious to you. Do I want to keep this person in my direct relationship life, like always? So yes, that's great. Now we want to assess the quality of that relationship and see if we can work on it to make it better or even more fulfilling. But if you're hesitating, you're like, I don't know if I should still keep this person in my life, then again, that's something to think about. You want to make sure that no matter how hard it is, you're going to be able to let go. Sometimes we need to let go of the bad so good can come to us, right? So take that into consideration and really sit down and assess each person and how you can really build stronger, more fulfilling relationships. So having good relationships, honestly, is huge for ourselves. Like, that goes back to our mental health, our well-being, our happiness. It really goes back to that. The relationships and how deep and how good and how connected we feel in our relationships can make or break us. So we are human. We are social people. No matter what, we cannot thrive alone. So our relationships is something we want to assess and see where we stand and how we can work on it, right? It's a two-way street. By just sitting there, we can't assume a friendship that we've had for 20 years is going to thrive without us putting in any effort, right? Sometimes we assume, we've been friends forever, we don't need to put in effort. Now we're busy, we haven't seen each other for a long time. And honestly, that may be one thing that's what's wrong in your life right now if something's not working. So you want to actively put in effort. So if you guys are more busy now and you can't organically just go grab coffee and hang out, what can you do? Can you schedule a date in advance where you're both available or where everybody's available, that you can actually go grab some dinner or go to a movie? So literally sitting down and assessing our relationships, again, could be a huge change in our lives towards the good. The third area in our life we want to assess is our personal development. Again, as humans, we need progress. We need to feel like we're growing in order to feel good and content. This is just our human nature. And if we don't develop personally, we're really going to feel stagnant. We're going to not feel as good as we can. So that's why personal development and focusing on that as a self-assessment in our life is really important. So what can you focus on personal development? What falls under that category, right? So this is what we want to assess. We want to assess to see where we are overall with what we want to develop personally. So for every person, it's going to be different. I may want to develop like a certain skill. Maybe for me, dancing is fun and I want to develop be a better dancer for my personal development aspect of it. And that could maybe cause me extra fulfillment and happiness because I have so much fun when I dance, right? Or for personal development, it can totally be working on my habits. Maybe I have some bad habits I want to get rid of, or gain some good habits that I know is going to change my life. Again, it's easier said than done, but I want to literally have a list of all the areas under personal development that I can assess and work on and be like, okay, this is what I want to work on. This is what I want to let go, right? If it's good or bad habits, for example. Another thing under personal development could be even trying something new, right? That could be exciting. That could be fulfilling. Take a workshop, take a class, take on something new and challenging that you always wanted to, but you were afraid to do it. Check something off your bucket list. So all of this should be ongoing with personal development, but you need to sit down and figure out, okay, what do I want to develop? So now we're mid-year for this year. So we can focus on the next 6 months, right? So what can I work on in the next 6 months? And just pick one thing, right? First, kind of assess yourself, see where you stand, have kind of a broad picture of where you're at, and pick one thing to work on. Sometimes we want to work on all these things that I might have mentioned, but this is just to give you guys ideas because everybody's different of what they want to work on. But pick one single thing. Don't make it feel like so much work because this should be fun. It's for yourself. You're doing this for you. You're not doing it for anybody else. So just pick one thing for the next 6 months and work on it. And like that, you'll be very clear of what's important to you. You'll work on that one thing, and then maybe for the next 6 months, you'll pick something different. And like that, it makes it more realistic. It makes it more achievable versus thinking, oh, I suck at all these things in my personality traits, in my habits, in my personal skills, right? If you think about everything you're lacking and you want to work on everything, it's going to feel very dreadful, and it's unrealistic for us to work on all of that in our personal lives because we're still doing so much on the daily. If it's with our work, our families, right? We don't have unlimited time to just sit and only worry about developing ourselves. Although I wish everybody spends as much free time they have on personal development because I think it's huge to improve our lives. But don't be so hard on yourself. Pick one thing for the next 6 months and try to improve that. But definitely for your assessment, write down everything that's important to you so you at least know where you want to be with yourself, like, right? Because this ends up being our personality, this ends up being our character, this ends up being who we are. At first, it may start with habits, it may start with skills that we develop, but at the end of it, all these things really build us of who we are or who we're trying to become. So that's kind of what I would write in my assessment too, if that's important to me. I want to be a person who's always calm and collected. I want to be a person who's a good problem solver, right? So those could be all things that goes in this area for personal assessment. The fourth area in our lives we want to assess is our career, okay? So we want to see where we're at with our career. Are we fulfilled with the day-to-day work we're doing? Are we making the difference we want to make in our company, in our jobs, in the world, whatever your goals may be? Are we happy with our colleagues? Do we dread going into work and seeing certain people? Do we have a good relationship with our boss? And that goes back to, relationships. So that's something we can also work on. So all of those things that has to do with your career, your job, your art, whatever you're doing, you want to make sure you sit down and assess. And if there is anything you can improve, make sure you do that. But it's good to assess it, because a lot of times, honestly, when we're assessing certain things in our lives, we're like, oh, I'm doing better than I thought. So it's not always negative or, oh, I need to work on this, I need to work on that, I need to work on all these things. A lot of times when we're assessing, we want to be positive too. We want to keep in mind all the great things that we have going on in all these areas that I was talking about. I think sometimes I'm very developmental focused, I guess. So I always think about, okay, what can I do to be better, right? What can we do to improve, to grow? So sometimes I forget to mention, even in these podcasts, that it's important when we're assessing not only to focus, okay, what can we do to grow, but acknowledge how far we came and what areas of our lives we're fully happy and content with. So if you love your job, leave it at that. You don't have to do anything to improve it. Or if you love your physical health, everything's going great, leave it at that. You don't have to do anything to change it, right? So the assessment is meant for us to kind of check in with ourselves and make sure that if there is anything we can improve, we're going to improve it. Again, I'm a big believer of there's always something more we can do to develop, to be better. But there's nothing wrong with being happy and content in certain areas. It's not a requirement to find something to improve, right? So make sure you're giving yourself credit. So with that said too, in the past when I've done this, I've noticed too, sometimes in my head, I always felt like, oh, I need to work on this, work on that to grow, to be better. But then when we sit down and assess, half the time, half the things on there ends up being like, oh, I'm actually good in this area. I'm happy. I don't want to change anything. And that's such a good feeling to know, okay, I'm in the right path in certain areas in my life, right? So sorry, I forgot to mention that in the beginning of the video, which I should have, but yes. All right, back to career development. So those are all the things we want to look at. How is everything going? And one other thing in our career too, or in our professional skills, we want to always challenge ourselves. Again, I'm going to go back to learning and growing more, but we always want to be kind of on top of our industry and our profession. Are we taking any classes, any workshops to improve our skills? If you have an artistic job, if you have a very technical job, if you have a very educational job, the things are always developing and improving and changing with technology, medicine, art, everything. So we want to make sure we're always on top of it to feel at our best and really be in the loop with things, right? And again, that's an area I can work on too. Like sometimes I get really busy, or certain things I feel like I've mastered and then I'll just kind of be done with it, right? I don't look back. But we need to remember, including myself, that hey, things are always changing. I need to cut out time in my work day or in my personal time to do some research, see what's new, what can I learn, what changed since I, learned about my technical skills or my professional skills. So the very last area we want to assess is our possessions. I don't know why I have such a weird relationship with that word possessions, but it is important to think about, right? And I don't want to mix it up with being materialistic. I think maybe that's why for me the word possessions comes off kind of negative initially when I say that word, is because I'm like, okay, materialistic things aren't really that important. But to be really honest, to some people, to some of us, and there's nothing wrong with it, even to me, certain possessions or certain materialistic things are very important. And it is okay for them to be important, to give us that part of the fulfillment in our lives. There's nothing wrong with having nice possessions or wanting nice possessions and materialistic things. It's wrong if we invest in it and get it without being able to afford it, because then we're, devaluing the other areas of our lives and getting into debt maybe in a lot of the case. That I don't like. But if there's materialistic things that you're working for towards, your possessions, and that can include a car, a house, maybe nicer clothes for events, whatever it may be, it is okay. So we want to assess our possessions. Where are we with that, right? Are we happy with the car we drive on the daily? Is our car really stressing us out every day? Does it keep breaking down on us? So we need to keep putting money into it because it's really old, and maybe it'll be more affordable to get a new car with a new lease. It'll probably end up costing less, right? So that's just one example of things we want to assess in our lives that's a possession or that's an object. Or do we have too much clutter? Do we have too much stuff in our living room where when we walk in the door, we just feel overwhelmed and it feels cluttered and it feels messy and we need to spend time to clean it and organize it? Do we need to let go of physical possessions that is not serving us, that we don't need, that we don't enjoy? One thing you guys can do for the decluttering is grab an item and see how you feel about it. If it's the things in your house or all your small possessions, grab it and see how you feel about it. Is it serving you? Is it causing you happiness? Are you using it on the regular? Or has it just been sitting there for months and it serves no purpose? And when you look at it, you're more annoyed compared to getting joy out of it. So I think for possessions, those are the type of things we want to look at when we're assessing our possessions, and obviously also trying to look at it in the long run of our goals and where we want to be with our possessions. Do we maybe have weird relationships with our possessions? Are we like holding on to things that really don't matter? Do we need help from a friend to help us let go? Yeah, I don't know. But for me in the past, anytime I was able to declutter, let go of things, I've always felt better. Sometimes like being a minimalist or having less, but of the quality things that really bring joy to you really is much better than having more and more, right? So that's how I would assess my possessions. And that would be our fifth and final area we want to assess in our personal lives to see where we're at, check in with ourselves, and hopefully grow and become and get to a place where we really want to get by the end of the year. So the way I want to conclude this episode is actually rephrasing a paragraph I recently read in this book. Okay, so this book is called The Lazy Way of Success. And I had actually bought this book, ironically. I was just like, I'm going to buy it because this is totally not me. Like, I really think hard work and really like you need to be dedicated in order to be successful. Like, it just made no sense to me. But then I had to buy it and read it because I'm obsessed over, success and all that good stuff. So anyway, so the one paragraph I read in this book and I was like, because it didn't fit what I had believed in the past. And I read this, I think back in 2016, and I had just reread it recently, I started rereading it recently because, to be honest, I kind of feel like being lazy these days. I don't know if it's the pregnancy, if I'm just like tired. I still want to be successful, but I just want to take it the easy, lazy, chill way of it. Okay. But to make sure I'm not misleading the book is not saying be lazy to be successful. Basically, it's saying you don't have to kill yourself to be successful. We can define it in a way that we don't have to work so hard to define that success for ourselves. Here's the part that stood out to me recently, and it just got me thinking again, because in a lot of the modern world, again, we're very driven to be successful. Like, all this thing is all the accomplishments or goals or having so much money or possessions or titles is super important to us, right? Or at least that's kind of what's sold to us. That's what we need to have. So then the story goes in here. So one like really successful businessman from New York goes to like an island in Costa Rica, and he's just on vacation. He comes across this fisherman, and the fisherman, I hope I don't mess this up. So he comes across this fisherman, and the fisherman is like super happy. He loves his life, but he is only working like 4 hours a day. He wakes up, he has a leisurely morning, he plays with his kids, and then he does his fishing for like 4 hours, comes back, sells the fish, does his thing, and then he relaxes. He takes like a siesta, he relaxes. That's his life. And he doesn't have a lot, he doesn't have mansions or like $1 million in the bank, but that's his life. So then this really successful businessman goes there on vacation, comes across this man, and he says, wow, like you really have a good business here. Like your fish is really good. Like, let's make this bigger. Why don't you like go fish for like 8 hours instead of 4? Hire these people, do these things. Again, I can't remember too much of the detail, but he basically gives him like this business plan of how to fully like grow this business, because he fully believes in it, and make it like a multi-million-dollar business. And he says afterwards, once it's big like that, you can move to New York, you can do this and that, and then you can retire and live a life on an island. You can relax. And then the moral of the story is like, but I am already doing that. Like, that's my life now. I don't have to go this full big circle and retire like 20, 30 years from now to have this life. I have this life now. I get to fish less, enjoy what I'm doing, and then enjoy the rest of my day. Like, why do I need all of this riches in order to end up in the same place, and this hard work in order to end up at the same place? So when initially I had heard that, it really like resonated with me at that moment, because I was like, oh, that's right. Like, if we can get to quality life today, maybe we don't need more, right? So I don't know. I just wanted to share that story with you guys as food for thought to think about, because I do believe it too. Sometimes maybe we just need to do less and enjoy our lives more, and really look at it with a different perspective versus, hey, I just need to work so hard to be this rich person to hopefully one day retire and have a fun, easy life. I don't know. So something to think about, but check out the book. It's called The Lazy Way to Success. It's a super easy read, super fun read. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Let me know what your thoughts are. Thank you for listening. Until next time. Bye. Thank you for listening. Please rate and review this podcast. Follow and engage with us on social media under the Yegi Project. And if you're interested in being a guest, email info@theyegiproject.com, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes.